On a dark and rainy day in the fall of 1986, Helle Crafts learned from a private investigator that her husband was having an affair. Shortly after this meeting, Helle Crafts disappeared. By all accounts, 39-year-old Helle Crafts was a caring mother of three in an unhappy marriage. Helle was looking to divorce her husband, Richard Crafts. She consulted with her attorney about how she was concerned about violence. Helle had suspected Richard was having an affair for a while. She hired a private investigator, John Mayo, to confirm her suspicions. He was, in fact, having an affair. Mayo provided photographic proof of Richard with his girlfriend, holding hands, kissing, and on outings together. Helle just broke down when she learned the truth. Helle and Richard Crafts had been married for 12 years. They both worked for the airlines. Helle as a flight attendant for Pan Am and Richard a pilot for Eastern Airlines. He was also a part-time policeman. Richard is described to be a very cold man. When he looked at you, he had a very cold stare. Their relationship was not a close one. Friends said Richard sometimes hit Helle. After Helle filed for divorce, she confided in friends on her flight crew, saying, "If anything ever happens to me, don't assume it was an accident." On November 18, 1986, Helle returned from a European flight assignment and was dropped off at home by her best friend. It was the last time anyone saw her. A few days later, Helle missed her flight assignment. She didn't call in, so friends called the Crafts home. Richard said she went to Denmark to visit her sick mother. Later, he told a different story, that Helle was on vacation with a friend, all which proved not to be true. There was a collective sense of panic in short time. Helle was not the sort of person who would just up and disappear. She would never leave her 3 kids. Friends tried to report Helle missing to the Newtown Police Department, but they turned a deaf ear on them. So Mayo launched his own investigation. In an interview with the Crafts nanny, she talked about seeing some mysterious dark stains she noticed on the carpet shortly after Helle disappeared. Richard had ripped up the carpet and put new carpet in, and wouldn't give the nanny an explanation on as to why. Also suspicious, a large freezer missing from the garage. And in credit card receipts show that Richard had ordered a commercial wood chipper right after Helle disappeared. Had something happened inside the house, and was her husband involved? Police asked Richard to take a lie detector test. They asked him if he killed his wife or had anything to do with her disappearance. He answered no on all questions. Although he passed, police knew he was lying, so Connecticut State Police called in forensic experts. In a search of the Crafts' home, forensics find 5 tiny stains on a mattress, so small they could barely be seen. Tests showed it was human blood. It was type O positive, the same blood type as Helle. Tests also showed it wasn't menstrual blood, but circulation blood, which means a blood vessel has been injured. Forensic scientist Dr. Lee studied the angle and intensity of the blood's impact. He concluded the blood hit the mattress at an angle of 10 degrees, meaning it came from an individual leaning over the bed or kneeling. The blood was moving through the air at medium velocity, consistent with an injury caused by a blunt object, and there was a 6-inch blood smear on the side of the mattress. The bathroom towels had been washed recently. Dr. Lee tested them with a solution that turns blue whenever there is blood present. The blue areas proved the towels had been soaked with blood. But there was no body, no weapon, and no witnesses. Police needed more to go on, so they looked for an unusual events that might be connected to Helle Crafts' unusual disappearance. It led to an important break. It snowed the week of Helle's disappearance. A snowplower reported seeing a wood chipper on a bridge about 3:30 in the morning. A man briefly appeared wearing an orange poncho. He saw the same wood chipper again about an hour later, so the man took police to the exact location. It was by a river, so police searched the riverbank. All they found was a few mounds of wood chips, but when they took a closer look, they found a piece of an envelope. It was mail addressed to Helle Crafts. Also, they started finding a lot of hair. Police spent days sifting through the dirt and debris along the riverbank. In addition to the hair and envelope, they also discover a few blue fibers, a gray piece of metal, what looked to be some tiny bone fragments, and a painted fingernail. Divers explored and found pieces of a chainsaw. The serial number had been scratched off. Richard Crafts was a suspect, but he maintained his innocence, saying he didn't kill his wife, he didn't know her whereabouts, and that he had passed a polygraph test. But the forensics might tell a different story. The forensic team started by examining the chainsaw. They found human hair, tissue, and a minute piece of fiber. It was barely visible with the naked eye. The fiber was a bluish-green cotton, the same color as Haley's favorite cotton nightshirt, and it matched other blue fibers found at the river. Since the serial number was scratched away, it was impossible to know who owned it. But the forensics team used a special chemical solution to reveal the serial number. The serial number matched a warranty number sent in by Richard Crafts. Next, forensic scientists wanted to find out whose hair was on the chainsaw. Every one of the 2,600 hairs was examined under a microscope. A lot of the hairs had been cut, but not cut with scissors. Scientists used Haley's hairbrush to extract hair to compare to the hair in the chainsaw. It was microscopically similar. Next, they turned their attention to the fingernail with the bright red nail polish. A chemist compared it to the nail polish Haley had in her home. The test concluded it was the same nail polish. Although the hair and nail polish was similar to Haley's, they couldn't prove she was dead. The bone fragments they found was found to be put through a wood chipper. So they ran a test putting a pig through a wood chipper since their skin and bones are similar to humans. The chipper made a signature type of cutting pattern, ones that matched the cutting pattern of the debris found at the river. Further testing showed grooves in the bone fragments, grooves that are formed by blood vessels inside the top of the skull, something only humans have. They also identified skull fragments from inside of the head. Further testing on the bone showed it was from a person with type O positive blood, same as Haley. The piece of metal they found was believed to be a crown to a tooth, but there was no human remains on the crown, so it couldn't be used as a form of identification. So they searched the crime scene again for 5 days until a break. They found a tooth. They compared it to Haley's dental x-rays and finally got a match. It was Haley's tooth. They were knocked out of her head violently. They were finally able to say Helle Crafts is dead and not just missing. Based on the forensic evidence, Richard Crafts was arrested and charged for the murder of his wife. Here's what investigators think what happened. On November 18th, Helle Crafts returned from her flight to Germany at 7 p.m. She put the children to bed around 8. The nanny had the night off and wasn't expected home until midnight. Before going to bed, Helle changed into her favorite blue nightshirt, looked through her mail, stuffed it into her pocket, and began changing the sheets, all the while arguing with Richard. Then it happened quickly. Using a police flashlight, Richard struck Helle over the head. The first blow knocked her to the ground. The second produced a blood splatter, hitting the mattress at a 10-degree angle. While falling, her head grazed the side of the mattress, leaving a blood smear. He wrapped the body in the bed covers, carried her through the house into the garage, and placed the body into the freezer. Richard tried to clean up the blood with some towels, which was later washed. The nanny arrived home around 2 a.m. and went right to bed. At daybreak, Crafts took the kids and the nanny to a sister's house, saying their mother had left early. He then rented the largest commercial wood chipper he could find and a U-Haul truck using his credit card. By nighttime, Haley's body was completely frozen. Crafts transported the remains along with the chainsaw and some wood to the river. The snowplow driver spotted the wood chipper on a bridge around 3:30 in the morning, and again near the river an hour later. Using the chainsaw, Crafts dismembered Haley's frozen body and put the pieces through the chipper along with some wood. Since the body was frozen, it produced little if any blood splatter. Most of the debris blew into the river. Only a few pieces fell short, landing on the bank. The mail Haley put in her pocket passed through the chipper virtually untouched. Before leaving, Crafts took apart the chainsaw, scratched the serial number off, and threw the pieces into the river. A jury of 11 men and 1 woman found Richard Crafts guilty of murder. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison. It was the first murder conviction in the state of Connecticut without a body. Richard Crafts maintains his innocence to this day.